So in thinking about what I was going to talk about today, and I will just be candid with you, I've been nonstop at Arrowhead, so it's going to creep into this talk whether I plan to do it or not, because there were so many things that happened, so many opportunities. I can be one of those that tell you it was an amazing experience. It was different. It was quite different, but it was amazing. There was a bonding and a caring and a sharing of our own ideas and purpose that I have taken into my heart. And so I'm just sharing with you the joy and the contentment I feel about that experience. So I know in moments where it's appropriate, it may just pop out. I'm going to begin with a quote that I read while I was at Arrowhead, because every morning I generally prepare for the day by doing my own reading, do a lot of things because I believe that I am my best self when I come to the day prepared. That is just, Ernest Holmes says we need to do that. We need to have a daily, he says, spiritual practice. We just read that in The Art of Life, and I say yes to that. Because the day, very often, has its own challenges, and I want to be emotionally and in a feeling way and in a spiritual way ready to respond in a way that's absolutely the way I want to respond. And I enable that by getting ready. So that's what I do. But in Emma Curtis Hopkins is someone I read, so I've got her book sitting right here. She's nurturing me with her words as they seep over across this little chasm. I read something that I even have underlined, but I don't remember having read it. Error is put in very bright packages of beautiful words, but it's better to have a mind of your own. So I'm thinking about what error looks like. And I think about it's things that we hear, we read, we see that are fancy, and we may not agree about with that if we're actually consciously thinking. But maybe it's so attractive in the way it's presented that we go, well, yeah. Years ago, I was teaching, it was basically a rhetoric course that I was teaching in college, and I would teach some of the students in the section of the course that was about persuasive speaking. I would talk to them about how you persuade people to an idea that you have, that you want to persuade this audience to agree with you about. And in the course of doing that, I talked a little bit about advertising. And I remember one of the examples, it just came to me this morning, that was in the part of what I used to teach. And it begins with a husband and wife who are having a dinner party, and the boss is coming to dinner. And they're getting the wine glasses out and the water goblets, and she holds it up to the light. Oh, it's full of spots, absolutely full of spots. Oh, she says, how can I serve these to the boss? This is horrible. And the husband's very upset. This needs to be perfect. This needs to be perfect. I'm expecting wonderful things to come from this dinner. We can't have that. So we fade away from this little scenario, and there's the commercial. Well, Spot No More, or whatever the product is that we're promoting, says the easy way to get through this, and it goes through the chemical things, and it talks really fast, and it gives you the example, the spotty glass, and you have the clean glass, and therefore, we come back to the husband and wife who's used Spot No More, and she pulls out the glass. It's wonderful. We fast forward just a few more minutes. The boss is at the dinner table, and he holds up the glass of wine. Oh, Sarah, you set a most beautiful table. It's absolutely wonderful. The husband is beaming. She is beaming. Spot no more when you know it has to be perfect. So that's what I thought about. Commercials present you with a problem, and then they present you with a solution, and they package it up in very pretty clothes. We get lots of commercials. They may not be a product like Spot No More, but we get lots of commercials that just persuade us with their beauty, with their loveliness, with their music, with their people. Oh, maybe that is a good idea. And maybe we don't come to that step to go, but wait, I have my own mind. Maybe I need to, maybe Spot No More is actually not the best thing to use. There's a lot of products on the market. Which one should I use? Maybe I should research that in a more independent way, for example. So I was thinking about all of that this morning when I was thinking of the pretty packages. And so what it reminds me of too, one of my favorite things to talk about is how we are already coming in any situation, we have bias. We have bias in favor of things and against things. And it's not just what we think. There's a whole culture out there that feeds into it. And I'm not talking about the big things that you may think I'm talking about. It would include those, but it includes lots of things. Some people are biased in favor of, they want to light real candles and not electric candles. Then they feel strong about the battery versus the flame. Some people are biased against whether you wear pants or you wear a dress. Some people never wear a dress. They're never going to do that, and they have their reasons. Doesn't matter. We have biases about a lot of things. And we have biases, I frequently share about the color that I don't care for, and it's purple. And so I say that I don't really care for the color purple. And so it doesn't matter to me. It can be your favorite color. I don't mind that. I just don't wear it, and I don't paint my rooms that color. So it's just my own personal bias. And I actually don't know why it's there. I don't actually care why it's there. It's not that important to me. But see, we all have these things about different things. We don't necessarily even think about it. Think of them more as your preferences. Some foods you don't like, and you may have perfectly good reasons, but you still have a favorite or a not favorite, and that kind of thing. Well, many of the biases that we have names. And in current times, the psychologists and sociologists who study all kinds of things like this have whole lists of them. And there's 3 of them I'm going to talk about. And one of the most common is called the confirmation bias. Confirmation bias works because I already believe something about anything. Pick a topic. It could be the vaccine issue. It could be a political issue. It could be the color purple. It could be anything. And I want to read things that support my belief. And that is a confirmation bias. Now, you may think, if you've heard anything like that this is a new thing. It absolutely is not. Jesus was well aware, he may not have called it confirmation bias, but he was well aware of that. And Jesus was not a person who spoke against things. In fact, I was reading, Emma said that Jesus didn't talk against anything, that he didn't tell you that you shouldn't do things. He said that his principle was that we have an easy yoke and a light burden. He doesn't praise hardship or suffering as a way to learn things. He praises faith and freedom. And he told stories to contradict those biases without saying, I'm going to tell you a story to contradict your bias, because that's not what he said. One of the ones that's particularly well known to us is the Good Samaritan. Now, Samaritans, we don't have any emotional attachment, most of us anyway, to Samaritans. So we don't understand why the audience of his time would say or might react to something. What do you mean, a good Samaritan? There was no such thing as a good Samaritan. He was speaking to Jewish people. And Samaritans, I could give you the historical reason for it, but Samaritans were essentially a mixture of Jewish and Gentiles. So therefore, unclean as far as many Jewish people were concerned. So what do you mean, a good Samaritan? So he tells the story of the Good Samaritan that I would assume, is everyone familiar with the Good Samaritan? Is there anyone who's never heard it? Never heard the story? Okay, because I wasn't going to go through the whole thing. It involves a Samaritan who passes by someone who needs his help. And Jesus points out that there are other people who were good Jewish people passed him by. He was over in the ditch. He was dirty. He didn't look like a ne'er-do-well. It might have been anything. They just walked fast and went past him. But the Samaritan stopped. He got him. He helped him to the inn, paid for what he needed to pay for, and said, when I am on my way back, I will pay for anything extra. Please take care of this man. Jesus was saying, this is the way we want to be. And he goes on to talk about we should consider our neighbor as ourselves. This, a Samaritan? That's what I'm supposed to do? And so what Jesus is speaking to, or against without saying that, is confirmation bias. They already knew that Samaritans were dirty and no good and not worth bothering with. And he's saying, wait a minute, what if they're not? And so he told the story. There were other stories that he told that challenged what people thought. And if you read the parables of Jesus and you read the stories, thinking about it that way, why did he tell this story? He always had these reasons of talking to them. You can even categorize them if you study it that way. And I find it very interesting. And as Emma says, he didn't tell you what not to do. He told you what to do. It's an affirmative teaching, which is what we embrace in this center. On the front of our program on Sundays, that ours is an affirmative teaching. And that's what Ernest Holmes said. Sometimes he'll call it a religion. But what's also on the front of our program is that we have no dogma. And that's what we think of religions as having. And if you are of the Catholic faith, there are certain things that you believe. And they're part of that, and that's part of the dogma. And you're not supposed to do this, that, or the other because that's what the dogma says. Now, we may all know that many Catholics choose what they're going to do and still remain Catholics. But I had someone tell me one time who happened to be very firm in the Catholic faith. I came into this world as kind of an iconoclast I just ditched rules that didn't make any sense to me. And there was one in particular, and I don't even remember what it was, and this friend of mine, I was sharing that with. I said, I can't believe this person wants to do this, that, and the other. And she stiffened. And she said, well, there has to be differences in religion. That's why we have rules. Oh, says I. I don't know what I said out loud, but that's what I said inside. I had offended her by embracing something and saying it was fine to do that when that's not something that she could embrace. So it is, I'm thinking that we're all alike here. We all agree that because we were together all the time. Our children played together. We did lots of things together. But there was a line that I crossed when I made that assumption. Many of us have our own rules. And it's not okay for me to assume that you agree with me. It's not okay for anyone to believe that the other person agrees with them. So what do we do when it's important and somebody says something that violates what we believe? What do we say? Well, if they're talking about their favorite color is purple, I'm not going to say anything because it's of no consequence. But there are plenty of things that have been said to me here and in other places that were of consequence. And I failed to say something. And I no longer believe in silence in the face of something I really fundamentally do not agree with. So what do? Well, I will say, and I depend on Spirit's guidance in my words when I do this, I will say, I can't agree with what you just said. Depending on the situation, I may elaborate. Depending on the situation, I may not. I strongly depend on that guidance within me to allow me to speak just the right words. Because what I really want is for the person to simply hear me, not to agree with me, just to hear me. And then they know that there is at least one person who doesn't agree. And what that leads to is not up to me. It's up to the Spirit within them and how much they inquire about the idea. But that silence, and it can be about a lot of things. It's very often, in the class that I took that raised my own consciousness around this was a class, it was a book reading on me and white supremacy. And the phrase that was used in there was white silence. And so what I recognized, though, almost immediately is before white silence, there was just silence. I have ignored lots of things that were unkind. They were critical. They were other things because I didn't want to make a fuss. How often have we done that? Well, sometimes you don't have to make a fuss, but it's important that you say what you believe. It's a matter of integrity to be able to speak for what you are. I mean, you hold your shoulders back, and this is what I believe, and I can't agree with that. And it's okay to do that. The word harmony, and that's my word for this year, harmony means, as part of it, that I respect everyone. I don't have to agree with you. Now, isn't that a sweet thought? I can disagree with you, but I respect you because I know that the God is in you as the God is in me. And I want to come from that spirit. And the more often all of us do that, the closer we get to peace on earth. And certainly peace in our own earth right here, peace in our family, peace in our community. The other two biases I had planned to talk about, and I see that the light is on, but I wanted to mention, because this one, the second one, is simple. It's called the complexity bias. Oh, this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. But if somebody over here gives me a simple way of thinking it, even if it's not particularly right, I'm going to take the simple one, the one I get. I don't like things to be too complicated. Somebody tells me something simple, I just go with that. Sometimes understanding requires energy. And Jesus actually spoke to that as well. But the other one is called community bias. And I've had this experience. I'm from Alabama. I've lived in Alabama. And it's amazing how I have heard, but I've heard it here in California, the same thing. Well, everybody believes this. I've heard it in Pasadena, and I've heard it in Huntsville, Alabama. And I remember when someone was elected, and these two women were talking to each other. She says, I can't believe they won. I can't believe they won. Who would have voted for them? I said, I did. And the two of them turned and looked at me, and I could just feel my horns coming right out. I was being judged, yes. I was not in that community. I wasn't playing by the rules. And that's that community bias, to not even imagine that anyone can believe different from you are, but it's powerful. And I think communities gather on Facebook, from what I understand, and in other social media things. And they talk to each other and confirm each other's biases, and nobody gets anything fresh if that's all you do. So I think all of us who want to be spiritual individuals who know they follow their own path, you don't follow anybody else's path. It is yours. And you walk in that. You may walk with a group, but it's your path. Dr. Moyer had a banner out there for a long time that said, we walk alone together. But we need to know that we are our own connection to the divine. There's nothing in between. There's me and the divine. And that's true for you. It's true for everyone. And that's the way it truly is. And I know that for me, it takes renewing that commitment every day, in order to stay as straight on the path as I can be. And I recommend to all of you, whatever your spiritual practice looks like, engage in it every day. Take time to come to that touchstone that is within you. The Christ consciousness is within all of us. And when we touch that, when we get to that and allow it to inspire us, and I promise you it will, to inspire us, we can be guided by that inspiration. I depend on it. I absolutely depend on it. So I'm going to leave you with that idea that I am God expressing. Would you say? I am God expressing. I touch the heart of God. I express the Word of God. And I live a life in expression of God. I'm grateful to know that I have the choice. And I know that this is so. And so it is. Thank you all for being here.